Soft morning light pours through tall windows. The room is quiet, unnaturally so. A wall clock ticks, slow and deliberate. Sister Reyna Alberto stands at the doorway. She adjusts her shawl, breathes in, whispers a prayer. Reyna, whispering, "Lord, help me listen." She steps inside. At the far end of the room sits President Nelson, alone. His posture is composed, yet his shoulders carry an unseen weight. His hands are folded. He looks up and smiles gently. President Nelson. "Reyna, thank you for coming." She inclines her head respectfully and sits across from him. Silence. Not empty, full. Sacred. The clock continues ticking. Reyna studies him quietly. He looks older today. Tired. Peaceful in a way that feels final. Reyna, VO. I had seen him speak to millions. But I had never seen him like this. As if the world had finally loosened its grip on him. President Nelson exhales slowly, leaning forward just slightly. President Nelson. There are things that cannot be written into talks, or spoken from pulpits. He pauses. President Nelson, softly. Some things must be passed, heart to heart. Reyna feels her chest tighten. She nods, unable to speak. The sunlight shifts across the table. Reyna, VO. This was not a meeting. This was a moment. More silence. President Nelson's eyes drift toward the window. President Nelson. In the Lord's work, we're not called to speak louder. We're called to listen deeper. Reyna swallows hard. Tears threaten, but she holds them back. President Nelson, turning to her. You've always understood that. That's why, asked you here. Her eyes meet his. Reyna. I'm listening. A faint smile crosses his face. President Nelson. Good. The clock ticks. Reyna, VO. I remembered the first time he spoke my name. How he saw something in me I couldn't yet see myself. Flashback int. Hallway, years earlier. A younger Reyna stands quietly after a meeting. President Nelson approaches. President Nelson. Flashback. The spirit speaks clearer than words. Reyna. When you speak with love, people will understand. Back to present. Reyna's eyes glisten. Reyna, VO. He never led with force. Only with faith. President Nelson's hands tremble slightly now. He notices. He stills them. President Nelson. There comes a time when silence carries more truth than any sermon. Reyna nods, tears forming freely now. Reyna. I understand. Another long pause. The room feels suspended, like heaven is leaning in. President Nelson closes his eyes briefly, gathering strength. When he opens them, his gaze is steady. President Nelson. There's something I need you to remember. Reyna's heart begins to race. Reyna. I will. He leans forward, voice quiet but unshakable. President Nelson. Never let fear silence your faith. The words settle into the room like a blessing. Reyna inhales sharply. President Nelson, repeating gently. Never. Let fear silence your faith. Tears fall now. She does not stop them. President Nelson. The world may misunderstand you. They may question you. But silence is easy. And truth requires courage. He watches her carefully. President Nelson. You have a gentle heart, and a strong one. That balance is rare. Don't bury it. Reyna presses a hand to her chest. Reyna, whispering. I won't. He smiles, relieved. President Nelson. That's all I needed to hear. The sunlight fills the room completely. Fade out. Int. Hospital room, evening. Dim light. Quiet machines hum softly. President Nelson lies in bed, frail but peaceful. His eyes are closed. The door opens slowly. Reyna steps inside. She hesitates, then approaches. She takes his hand gently. His eyes flutter open. A faint smile appears. President Nelson, weakly. You came. Reyna nods, unable to speak. They sit in silence. One last sacred silence. Reyna, VO. This was the silence that comes after a long life poured out completely. Reyna, softly. I'm here. President Nelson squeezes her hand. Barely, but enough. President Nelson. Good. He breathes slowly. President Nelson. Did you remember? Tears spill freely now. Reyna. Every word. She swallows. Reyna. I'll keep them alive. I promise. His eyes shine with gratitude. President Nelson. That's all I hoped for. He exhales. President Nelson. It was never about me. It's about the work. The message. Reyna nods through tears. President Nelson. Speak for those who feel afraid. Remind them faith still matters. She grips his hand tighter. Reyna. I will. He watches her, really looks at her, one last time. President Nelson. Don't cry for me. She shakes her head. President Nelson, gently. The Lord has been kind. I've had my time. A pause. President Nelson. Now it's yours. Reyna sobs quietly. President Nelson. Lead with the courage you were once afraid of. Silence. The machines hum. Reyna bows her head, resting it near his hand. Reyna, whispering. Thank you. For seeing me. A final squeeze of his fingers. Peace settles over the room. Reyna, VO. In that moment I understood. The greatest leaders don't demand remembrance. They plant it. Cut to. Int. Small office, night. Weeks later. Reyna sits alone at a desk. A notebook lies open. On the page, written clearly. Never let fear silence your faith. She closes her eyes. Reyna, VO. This was not the end of his voice. It was the beginning of mine. She stands. Cut to black. End.